gentlemen, welcome back to Perspective with Itu. Today we have the privilege of introducing a remarkable talent who has made her mark in the world of entertainment. Meet Pebetsi Nolo Matlaila, a multi-talented individual with a captivating journey to share. Pebetsi embarked on her academic journey, earning a bachelor's degree from the University of South Africa, a testament to her dedication to education and personal growth. However, her story takes an exciting turn when, at the age of only 19, she embarked on a life-changing adventure that saw her spending 4 years in the United States, darling. But what truly sets Pebetsi apart is her remarkable entry into the world of television. Many of you may recognize her as the vibrant and engaging entertainment journalist Mokgadi Maputla, from the popular youth drama soap Piskimsam, which graced the screens of SABC1. Join us as we unravel the captivating journey of Pebetsi Nolo Matlaila, exploring her academic achievements, but also just getting a perspective on life. So yeah, welcome to our show, Pebetsi.
Thank you so much. You know, when somebody reads about you, you're like, oh, wait, are you talking about me?
Right? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, that can't be.
No, really, I did all of those things.
Like all of those things, oh my word. But I think it's just a moment to just celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Itu. Yeah. I'm very happy to be here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. And I think it's such a beautiful time that you're here, because I think we were talking about it, that God's timing, right? And when I invited you, like, you have something very special coming up, which we will talk about at a later stage. So just tune in, darling. Okay.
Yeah, very exciting.
Right? So it's such a beautiful moment that just when that comes out, then you're here to share your story with us here and it just bring us your perspective.
Yeah, well, yeah. I've been watching your channel for a while. Wow. And I remember saying, God, when that thing happens, can I please get on that show?
Sure.
And I promise you.
Sure.
You know?
Oh my God.
God does answer prayers.
Yeah.
God does hear us. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. I think we spoke about celebrating yourself.
Yeah.
You know, can you and do you celebrate yourself?
Ooh. You had to start with the big one. Hey, wow. No, as a matter of fact, for the longest time, I had a problem celebrating myself.
Sure.
Wow, you really started with a big one. But the reason I had a problem with celebrating myself is because for the longest of time, I suffered with dysthymia, which is functional depression, where you are depressed for a very long time and you're functioning, but you're not present in moments. So you never get to celebrate yourself. You don't recognize monumental periods in your life, pivotal moments. Even birthdays can go by for 3 years and you never really do anything about it.
So
big achievements, when people look at it as a big deal, you don't see it as a big deal. Yeah, so I've struggled with celebrating myself. People celebrate me on my behalf, and then I get surprised of, wow, they're so excited. Then I remember, oh, they're celebrating this and that. So
yeah.
I've always celebrated myself through people. Yeah.
Oof. How do you want to deal with it? You know, is it something that you want to deal with it? And then for you to eventually get to a place where you can now celebrate yourself, or are you just content with like other people just like celebrating you?
Oh, so I've done extensive therapy, and that's when I found out what kind of depression I have. That's why it's not like easy to diagnose. Number one, dysthymia is not easy to diagnose, because also it's periodic, right? You go through periodic waves of depression. Maybe 2 months you might feel like you're just not figuring things out.
Yeah.
In the next 2 months you're on top of the world. So it's one of those things where one day you wake up on top of the world, the next day you wake up and the world is on top of you.
Sure.
And after finding that out, I realized that's why there's so many moments in my life that I could not celebrate. And my mom, because she's the closest person to me, who knows me better than anybody, she'd always look at it as being ungrateful. when I know you are ungrateful, mother, but that's because I couldn't recognize in the moment what's happening.
Yeah.
And so when I found out what it is, I started working on it. I've learned the art of being present in the moment.
Yeah.
And I know we say it like it's just another thing. Oh, don't worry about tomorrow. Recognize the present moment. But it's actually true. People just float through life and they're on autopilot. They don't really know what they need to do to be present in the moment. So I've since learned to do that. And I've since learned to celebrate myself.
Yeah. And I think that was my next question, Khore. And like we need to tread back, but Khore, when you are in the moment, right? And now when you have this thing, and now like something upsets you, for example, is it something that you deal with at a much later stage, or is it something that you can deal with like right here, right now?
Well, unfortunately, dysthymia, dysthymia is not a common word, right? I'm just mentioning it a lot so people can get, familiar with it. But it's usually called functional depression.
Okay.
People don't know they're in it for many, many years, right? You don't know you're in it for many years. And, but when you do figure it out years later, you actually can make that switch in your brain.
Yeah.
Where you really do celebrate moments. I'm talking simple things like enjoying a day like this. The sky is clear, clouds in the sky, but there's this beautiful breeze that just reminds you we're still in spring, things like that. You get to notice small little bits, and that's what it means to be present in the moment. Yeah.
I love it. All right, so let's check back.
Okay.
So you were born in Limpopo, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that time. Tell us about moments with your family, the moments that you remember, like you were a little sweet, beautiful baby princess.
Okay, so I was born in Limpopo in a village called Zividiela, famously known for their oranges.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Yeah. And I like to say the yellow bone is natural, guys. Even if I sit in the sun, the color never goes away.
Yeah.
I've been eating citrus from childbirth, okay? And that's where my dad comes from.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Lewakomo, which I would say is an informal settlement, right? But a lot of young professionals will live in there. Your teachers, your nurses, and didn't subsidy. So it was obviously an upgrade from the village. We lived in Lewakomo for a short while. And I remember when I went to grade 1, my mother asked me to go live with her sister in at Ridgeville, Pretoria. And I went to grade 1 there at SA College. But after a year, she came and got me because I think we were moving to town. I think that was after 1919. Nelson Mandela had left prison. So my mom didn't even wait for him to be the first president. My mom was like, we're moving. Obviously, it's freedom time now.
Yeah.
And we moved to town and we started living in Polokwane from my grade 2 to grade 3 onwards. So today when people say, where do you come from? I tell people I come from Polokwane, but Polokwane is town, as Habomot.
Yeah.
So then I always have to explain the story. I was born in Zividiela, but we moved to Polokwane quite early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Did you grow up with both your mom and your dad?
Both my mom and my dad. I'm the firstborn to 2 boys.
Wow.
2 sibling brothers, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oof. And how is that like?
Yup. I'm still a big sister to 2 sibling brothers. Yeah. You're expected to be the caregiver as the female daughter who's the firstborn. Yeah, you're expected to take care of them. And I still do to this day. It's just those responsibilities that don't die out. Yeah.
Sure. What were some of the conversations that you've had with your parents growing up, especially being like a caretaker, right? To your siblings, but also just more than that, like parents do you guys actually see me as like Pebetsi?
I don't remember having conversations like that growing up. So both my parents are educators, they're teachers. I don't remember having any profound, deep life lesson conversation with my dad because of particular reasons, although he was home every day. The only conversations I had with my mom, being the only girl at home, is I'm my mom's friend, right? So my mom tended to confide in me quite a lot. And as I also just understood that dynamic. I'm the only girl at home. Obviously, she's going to confide in me, you know, and that's how I developed a friendship with my mom. My mom is not just mom, she's my friend. And the kind of conversations we had are profound and they are life-changing. But I guess most of the time it was just her shoulder to lean on. Yeah, most of the time it was more of a shoulder to lean on. But I don't remember walking to her to have a conversation with her.
Sure.
Because I just feel like parents of that era just did not know how to have a conversation with a kid. You know, like, I don't remember walking to a woman speaking to her about how I feel insecure about something. Or maybe I have a crush at school. I don't remember having those conversations. But I know quite a lot about my mom.
Sure. And being that shoulder to cry on, who was the shoulder? Who was your shoulder?
No one.
Who's your shoulder now?
Well, over time, well, in my adulthood, I've learned to find my close circle of people I can speak to. You know, I have a best friend from childhood that I still talk to. It's just that she lives in America, so the hours are different, you know. But that's the one person I can be utterly honest with. And I'm grateful for that, you know. And therapy is also my other source. So as much as I have a close relationship with my siblings and my mom, we're just not talkers about personal matters. We don't, I don't know, we just don't step over that, right? So I've never had a person to talk to for the longest of time. So what I used to do, my mom still talks about it to this day. Why not, Nolo? Instead of talking to me, you'd go write a letter and I'd find a letter in one of your school books.
Yeah.
Speaking about your problems.
Yeah.
Why don't you come talk to me? I'm like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
You're not an easy person to approach, so, you know. And you don't really listen. The moment I start talking, you already have a solution. You already,
Yeah.
So I can't really unravel my.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was the dynamic. But you know, when you come from they say you don't choose the family you come from. So you just roll with the punches. Yeah. My brothers are still the same to this day. I can't go to my brothers and talk about how some guy broke my heart or so-and-so's dad was beating me up. I can't. They won't have anything to say, you know. So, however, we still maintain a very close relationship where when it comes to, I guess, severe matters, you can rely on them. But
yeah,
talking about emotional stuff is not our thing. Yeah.
What were some of the emotional conversations you wished you had with your mom?
You know, I still wish I had it to this day, but I'm glad that I'm reaching a point in my adulthood that she's going to find out one way or the other, right? She knows me to be a person that writes, right? Write my feelings. She's going to know. But if there's one conversation I've always wanted to talk to her about is my mother grew up with a dad that she adored. She loves her father. She speaks highly of her dad. She's always got good things to say, and she'd always tell me about what her father said, what her father said about her. And that's why she's who she is today. She's a strong woman, and, you know. And I always say to her, but in my mind, I always think, but are you aware that I don't have that with my dad?
Yeah.
And the reason I don't have that is because of who my dad is and his struggles in life.
Sure.
But you never left him. I think the one question I've always wanted to ask my mom was, why is it that you never left him, you never divorced him at the expense of the damage it was doing to us as your children? Because growing up watching your father beat up your mom every single day until you can actually stand between them and say, if you hit my mom, I'm going to hit you. Until you get there. You probably get there until in your teens, right? When you can gather up enough. So from childhood until your teens, you're watching this. So for me, I felt like, did she ever consider the kind of psychological damage it does to us? And also never really talking about it, because if we spoke about it, it was just her venting, taking out her emotions about how angry she is, how frustrated she is, but then the damage is actually very extensive, in the sense that I only learned now in my adulthood that children or daughters with father issues end up being women with men problems. And it makes sense why I have such an extensive list of failed relationships that if in hindsight you're thinking it's not bad luck. You can't just be a person who has one bad relationship up to the next. You are the common denominator here. What did you do? So then I had to turn around, and this where therapy helped me, because then I started talking to somebody who's not family. They helped me look at the situation different. Hore, what is it that you think you're doing? And I realized it's because I really don't, well, it's a lot of issues combined, but when it comes to men, I just don't know how to treat them.
Sure.
Because I didn't know how to treat the first male figure in my family. Yeah.
Have you ever had that conversation with your dad where you were like, I don't like what you did to my mom? And do you have a relationship now?
Oh, he too. I posted a video on YouTube a while back, and I was talking about how I need people to understand that I don't hate men. Because, certain things you post about jokingly, people might look at you as a man hater, a bitter woman. And I needed to clarify that I'm not a man hater and I'm not bitter. It's just that I just don't feel like I can deal with a male figure in my life right now. I'm not ready. And I went on to justify it by saying that I'm still working on childhood traumas, because childhood traumas have a way of showing up in your adulthood. I don't know why they show up in your adulthood, but they do. And then you're forced to deal with them, or else you're going to be a broken adult until your last day. And in that video, I said, I've never had a relationship with my dad. It's one thing to not have a dad who lives with you, an absent father who left a long time ago. But it's another thing to have a dad who's there every day physically, but is not present. I don't know what it feels like to receive money from my dad for tuck shop. I don't know what it feels like to get a birthday present from my dad. I've never had a conversation with my dad. I don't remember any profound lesson my dad ever gave me that I will take it with into my adulthood. And that's because my dad has lived with alcoholism since I've known him. Meaning I don't know my dad sober. I don't know my dad sober. I don't know what he talks about when he's sober. If he's sober, he's sleeping or he's sick. But the moment he's up, the bottle is right here. And mind you, my dad is hilarious. The community loves him. Family members love him. He Malume Bennett, they love him because he's this funny guy. He's always the joker. He's always the life of the party. But he's not. He's not a father. He doesn't know how to be one. He can't even advise you when things are wrong. Like, maybe in your teens you're naughty. Uthaba high to go to a party and my mom finds out we ran away. Fine, they might come get us together, but when we come back and my mom has to give us a tongue lashing, he can't even say anything. And even if he tries, we don't take him seriously because we don't know that's a man who's serious and has self-respect. But I understand him today in my adulthood because he's a broken man.
Yeah.
I would ask him that. Did you know? Because I think that's the first thing you need to ask somebody. Did you know? Because it just so happens that maybe he has no idea. And if he did, what if his constant drinking was to just run away from the realization of what he did, right? And that's all I really ask him. Did you know? And if you did, why didn't you try and change? Why did you just stay the same way? Because they've wasted so much time. You've missed out on so many moments.
Does he know your family?
My family?
Like Bana?
Oh, he knows the oldest one. He knows my firstborn because when I gave birth to my firstborn, the
thing is also, I think we don't talk about self-medication a lot. Like you mentioned how your father is a broken man, right? And I think as children, we expect our parents to be perfect, right? And they should know it all.
Yeah.
And they should know every single thing. And they should have things together. And we don't talk about how our own childhood traumas, like you had mentioned, that you only now in your later stage of life where you had to realize how important it is to heal your childhood traumas. Because if you don't, they're just going to ripple down to the next generation. Next thing you're there, or like you're just like shouting at like a banner for nothing. Have they done anything wrong to you? No. But because you are triggered by something, you then start shouting at them. And then that ripples down now. So it's sort of like childhood trauma that we don't talk about, that your dad probably hasn't been able to share it with anybody else himself. And I mean, like, we know how difficult it is for men to just like open up, right? And now he's even worse because he's the older generation where speaking as a man was seen as weakness, And I think for me personally, when I realized that I would never get what I've always wanted from my dad, I think the revelation of, but he can't give you what he doesn't have himself, I think that just like freed my mind. Because for me, it was like, do you know what? I've got children myself, right? They are probably also expecting certain things from me. And I'm like, no, but I can't give you that because I don't know it. Number one. Number two, I myself still need to go through certain things to get to that point. And I think generations evolve, right? Like our kids, they are more confident, they are more open. Like when you do something to them, it's like, no, mommy, you can't talk to me like that. So like, why are you shouting at me? And it's just like, I would never say that to my mom.
No, you would never.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, you would.
I'm just like, I would never say that to my mom. But also, because of the previous generation, which is me, I get it. I'm like, no, actually, why am I shouting? My mom wouldn't have seen it that way. Naile when I is one tella. You know what I mean? So like generations evolve and we seek different things. And I think that revelation for me of saying, but my dad never received love from his own parents. He never received that affection from his own parents. So him hugging me is like weird. Right? It's weird. And for us, we talk about therapy now, and it's like a thing, right? But our parents never went to therapy. So whatever trauma that your dad has, has broken him to a point where he had to lash it out onto your mom. He had to lash it out, onto you. But I think my question is to you is, how did that affect you as a child? How did that affect you going to school? How did that affect your self-esteem as a young daughter who just yearned for, I love you, come here, let me hug you?
Funny enough, that's not been what I wanted. That kind of wish was so far-fetched. I love you and a hug from either my mom or my dad.
Sure.
Was far-fetched, I always say, we always joke around, my siblings and I, or we come from a tough love type of environment. Tough love. We're raised with tough love, yeah? But before I even answer how it affected me growing up, going to school, self-esteem and all, somebody would say, I grew up poor. I couldn't even go play with the kids next door because the kids next door would get Christmas shoes on Christmas, and I never got any. The only shoes I got were school shoes that I'd wear throughout the year. And I told myself, when I have my kids, they wouldn't go through that. You know what I mean? So somebody's disadvantaged background is supposed to motivate them to do better. That's my disposition. And that's why I cannot, as much as my dad is a broken person, you know very well the kind of upbringing you had, right? Could you not at least try and compensate for that? But I won't allow my kids to be raised that way. Because I still think to this day, my dad was smart when he married my mom. He knew he can't do this thing, but he knew he wanted to build a family, because in society, it's not just about, in their society, it wasn't just about career. It was also about what? About having lelapa. Again, they come from an era where a marriage is an achievement like a university degree. So you can't just be a teacher. So he was strategic with marrying my mom. Smart. My mom is a sober-minded woman, focused, religious, one understand the strict, a forward thinker, addicted to self-development. She's a mover and a shaker. So my dad knew, even if he's lacking, his kids are sorted. So maybe that was his way of being smart about it. But I still feel like, as a parent, if you know that you were, like, I'm very intentional about it. I'm very intentional. I'm very cognitive. That if I'm doing something wrong, I apologize to my kids. I allow in my home, I say I have an open door policy, even if it's embarrassing. Even if you think I'm going to beat you, you have to come and tell me. Because I don't want you to say, I couldn't talk to my mom. I don't want you to run to another individual to talk to when you've got a mom. That thing is painful, I would feel hurt as a mother that you couldn't talk to me. So I have an open conversation. And yes, I'm a black mother. Yes, I will raise my voice. And yes, I will promise a beating afterwards. But at least I want you to know that in the first few minutes when you are breaking it down, I want to create space for you to talk. Because I want you to be honest. I want to get it all. Why? Because I wasn't afforded that. So I just feel like, as parents, can't we afford our kids that? So as much as we can understand him and say he was a broken man, I still have that disposition. And I really do. I feel that disposition with him. You really couldn't do better after what you saw, how you were raised. But that's just that bitterness I still hold. And maybe one day I'll get a chance to talk to him about it. Maybe one day I won't. But life will still continue, However, in his in my childhood, in my upbringing, the one thing that always stood out for me was that I have friends who have very close relationships with their fathers. You know, I have one particular friend who said the reason she's who she is today is because her dad told her she's the most beautiful girl in the world. And her dad was the one who took her to pageants, you know. And my best friend who's in the States says her dad is the funniest man in the world. And I know that because I've been in the same vicinity with them. And I'd hear how her dad would joke and would crack up, you know. These people have legit, substantial, you know, tangible relationships with their fathers. And when we would be picked up at school, and maybe I'm going with one of them, and they're sitting in the front seat with their dad, and I'm hearing these, you know, inside jokes, and I used to wish that for myself. I wished that for myself, but I couldn't, right? Number one. Number two, I used to feel embarrassed when friends have to come over to my house because they're going to experience my drunk dad, and I had to come up with excuses like, oh, he's just joking, he likes to act. But it was embarrassing. It's still embarrassing to this day, where you have to cover up for him. Because when your dad is always drunk, how do you explain that to your friends? You know? So I used to even avoid having them come over. And if they do, my dad shouldn't be over. Because he can easily switch from being the life of the party to being the monster that chases everybody out of the house at night, in the middle of the night. So I had to always hide what kind of a father I have. And even though sometimes it was pretty obvious to the community, because there's certain things he did in plain sight. And when they came and told me, oh, we saw your dad do A, B, and C, I had to just laugh about it, you know, to hide the shame and the humiliation.
Do you think that you hiding your dad's behavior and standing up for it type of thing, right? Like hiding it with saying, or no, like you can't come here. Like that side of yours comes from you being the firstborn and having been raised as the firstborn, and therefore you just had this sort of like a mother figure over your family to protect and to love. And how heavy was that on you?
Yeah, that what you just explained there is actually called codependency issues. Another thing that I discovered in therapy is a lot of things I picked up about myself in therapy, you know, and weirdly enough, for somebody who has a degree in psychology, I've been avoiding therapy for the longest of time. So when I had to see therapy, it was actually enforced on me. Not by my family members, by nurses, you know. And when I actually found out about what codependency is, it clicked in my mind, oh, that's what it is. So, yes, being the firstborn, you want to always overcompensate by helping your mom around the house, so that maybe seeing your mom happier and less stressed would bring joy, and she would appreciate you more, right? Maybe I'd get her attention. For example, my mom is at work. I know she comes back at a certain time, and if she comes back and my brothers have eaten, my brothers have bathed, the kitchen is clean, I feel like, oh wow, today my mom is going to give me attention. Today my mom is going to pat me on my back. And codependency is exactly that. You overcompensate to enable people. You bend over backwards for them in return for their loyalty and their love. And that, for me, I used to just think I'm a people pleaser, but you know, at its deepest, it's codependency, and it stems from childhood. You know, so yeah, I would protect my dad in that way. So much so that my codependency apparently started showing way before I knew what it was. You know, if my dad is drinking at home and he passes out in the garden, my mom would just say, so I would like want to go get him and bring in food and say, Dad, let's go sleep in the house and lock you in. And why was I doing that as a 5-year-old? Because I'm hoping I would earn his love. Ooh, so that is a codependency nature. And sadly, it stems into adulthood. You get into relationship with people where you're always the fixer. You're always taking care of them. You're the one who's bearing their burdens. You're the one who's listening to their problems. Right? Why? In return for their loyalty. Ooh. And when they don't give you the loyalty you need, you lose it.
Did you ever get to a place of, I'm just going to be me and my mom should love me anyway? Like it's her responsibility to love me anyway, and my mom loves me just the way I am. And I'm going to be dirty today, and I'm not going to wash the dishes.
That only actually started 2 years ago, if not a year ago. Yeah. Because even before, I own my own place. I'm an adult. I've got kids. But if my mom is coming over, hey, spring cleaning anyway. My mom is coming. Hide the wine bottles, hide anything that's suspicious, because mom is coming. But only now, mom is coming. This is my home. I didn't feel like washing dishes today, I think I'm only accepting it now that, my mom is just going to, but also I know she loves me. My mom just has a different way of showing it. She's a tough lover like that, I remember literally recently, I went to speak at her school's farewell. And I got there late because I had car issues. So she thought I wasn't going to make it. And she was already giving up on me, like, I don't know. I don't get to know that something, And I spoke to another teacher from her school. I'm like, just calm her down. I'm on my way. I'll get there. That's one kid. They're still dancing. I'll get there. So after the whole thing, when we were done and it was time for me to go, I said, Mom, you never say anything nice to me. Are you proud? I want to hear you say those words. So I ask her literally now, I'm like, are you proud? I need to hear you say it because I never hear you say something nice about me. Unless you say it with people and when I'm not around. But I actually want to hear it. I literally want to hear it for my self-esteem. Because if anybody's opinion matters in my life, it's yours. Not anybody else's. I need to hear my own mom tell me. So even though I say jokingly that she says it, and I feel good about it, Yeah. So I think it's a work in progress, when in psychology they say when you can identify the problem, you can actually start finding a solution. So I'm learning how to work around everybody now, like for my sanity's sake, okay? Because I almost lost my mind. I almost lost my mind. So now I know how to work around things for my sanity's sake, because nobody's going to help Nolo out. Nolo doesn't help herself out. Especially, like I said, I've never had anyone. Like when I mentioned now, I have a friend that I can confide in at my most vulnerable without fear of judgment. It's because I had to also teach a friend, I need somebody to talk. You talk to me about everything. Do you realize that you never ask me what's wrong? And because we've been friends since childhood, we've seen each other change and grow in different levels of our lives. We can understand each other and that's how we develop. So it's just a work in progress with everybody close around me.
Sure. You mentioned something and I want to go back to it. You mentioned being seen and appreciated by your mom. How important is that for you? And how has it impacted your life not receiving it for so long?
It has impacted my life immensely to the point where I feel like my mom didn't see it, but I'm so glad that with this new thing that's coming, she's going to find herself one day sitting and realizing, I didn't know, But it has impacted me so much that there's this pivotal moment in my life when I was living in the States. Like I said, my best friend is still there. We've been there together. She's still there. She stayed there long enough to have a green card now. She's got property there and everything. And, as a foreigner, we all know how difficult it is to finally earn a green card without illegally earning it, So, in all honesty, I wanted to stay there too. Because then there was, this huge difference between a first world country and a third world country. And me being there was also helping my mom financially, because my mom is a married woman, but she's always functioned as a single parent. Everything, all the debt, all the bills, everything's her. My dad earns and goes and drinks his money with other women. And that has been the norm in my family to this day. So I started working at the age of 19. I'm working as an au pair. And an au pair is basically just the fancy name for a nanny, right? It's just a nanny. You're a tutor, actually, they call it. You're taking care of rich Jewish people's kids. But you're earning $300 a week, because in America, they work with wages. They don't work with salaries. And $300 to the rand at the time was 10 rand. So I was earning 3,000 rands a week as a 19-year-old. What am I going to do with that kind of money? Of course, I'd send it home all the time, right? So I thought, wow, this is actually working. Now I'm helping my mom out. She's less stressed out. And I'm also here. I'm away from that toxicity, that environment I was raised in. I actually want to stay here. But there was one year where, month after month, my mom was always in jail. Every time I'd call home to check up on them, my mom is always in jail. Why is mom in jail? Because it's always dad who's in jail, The norm was dad was the one who would be arrested for beating up mom. So why is mom in jail? Oh no, dad has now created friends in the police station. So when the alliance stuff happens, so he can go tell them, oh, this woman wants to kill me. And they come and arrest my mom with no evidence whatsoever. So I remember having a fear that, no, your mom is going to die. And you're here in America. And that was the year I took a decision that in December, I'm leaving. I'm going back to South Africa. And I didn't have to. But I did. Because I felt like she needed me. So I changed my whole future dream for her.
Do you resent her for it?
I don't. I just, for the longest time, I used to feel hurt that she doesn't appreciate that. But how can she appreciate it if she didn't know I made that kind of a sacrifice? So I don't resent her for it, because, of course, upon my return, things changed, because I'm older now. I'm more affirmative. I'm more confident. I can speak my mind. I can go and speak to authorities and tell them what it is. So, of course, things changed. But my point is, anybody's opinion of me does not matter. Friends, people on the outside, my own brothers even. And I like my mom's opinion of me is as important to me as God's opinion of me. That's how important my mom's opinion of me is. And I've just always wanted her to validate me in that way. Because I always thought we were best friends, right? In childhood, I thought we were best friends. So come on, bestie, I must be one of your favorite people, But again, it goes back to codependency. And that's the thing, when you make sacrifices for people that they didn't ask for, and then when they say, but I didn't ask you to do that, then you get upset. Codependency forces you to do that. She didn't have to ask me to come home. I just did.
Yeah.
Well,
when you look back now, how do you really feel about that?
Well, I mean, do you see how my life has turned out upon coming back? So I guess I always say God's plan for our lives is really not ours. As the scripture says, my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts, you know. And sometimes we become angry with God when things don't work out the way we want them to because of our own expectations.
Yeah.
You have your own expectations of how God should work things out for you. But when God said, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb and I had a plan and a purpose for you, did you think you're nowhere? No. So I'm grateful to this day because had I not come back, A, I would have never had the kids I have. And B, I probably would have never followed through with the career path that I did, you know? And I probably would have just never been the public figure that I am today who can actually have a profound impact, you know, because it's easy to make a quick buck, but it's harder to make an impact. To whom much is given, much is expected. Yeah. So I knew very well that you don't just get here because of luck. You got things to do, girl. You need a responsibility. So when I look back, I'm not upset. I'm not really hurt about it. It's just that that's one thing I really had hoped she had known, that she matters that much to me. Like she's the one person I would kill for, you know? And I just hope she knows that. Yeah.
So now you have this, abusive father. And you have this, amazing mom, but she's also going through her own thing. And normally when we get married, right, like we are thinking, oh my God, like my knight in shining armor, you know. And sometimes when you're going through things, you're thinking, he's going to come and save me from things, right? Like my forever, ever after, or like whatever, right? And then you get married. And you're thinking, oh, it's going to be lovey-dovey, it's going to be amazing. What and how did your marriage turn, and how was that for you, and what happened?
So my marriage is actually not what people think it is. People think it was a love story that turned dark overnight. And that's not it. It's been dark from day one. And that's what people don't get when I say, I'm not hurt or heartbroken that I had a 9-month marriage. I'm relieved. It was dark from day one, you know. So I married my dad.
Yeah.
Point blank, I married my father. Because, again, he was the only father figure example. That is the kind of male or husband material that was modeled in front of me throughout my childhood. What do you think I'm going to marry? Of course I'm going to marry someone who's just like my dad. And subconsciously so, without even thinking about it, I found myself pregnant with this man's child. And I still don't know how I got pregnant to this day, by the way. Okay? And I'm happy I got that child, okay? So I found myself pregnant with this man's child, and he wants to marry me. He's sincere about it, marrying me. He's adamant about it. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have to. Just because we have a child together, we don't have to. You know, we can just co-parent. You know, I've done this before with the first one. And this man wants to marry me. And obviously him knowing my mom's values as a Christian religious woman who does not believe in divorce. And obviously if you have a child with somebody you're going to marry. He happened to also work his charm with my mom. And my mom thought, okay, if he wants to marry you, let him marry you, Nolo. Because most men don't even want to marry. And when you've got a man who wants to marry you, what if this is the last marriage proposal you get? You've got a second child with a different man Do you think you're going to get lucky again? This man wants to marry you. Think, girl, think. And what did I do? I'm pregnant. There's a man who wants to marry me. He's the second man I'm having a baby with. So, I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. Are you going to change though? Are you going to change? And he says, I will change. Because the problems we had, every time I'd bring them up, he was profusely apologetic, remorseful. And he would always say, I'll change, right? And that's the difference I would see between him and, actually, no, my dad was the same. He'd also always, whenever we had family meetings, complaining about his things, he would always say, I'll change. So yeah, I married my dad. And he wants to marry me. He's sincere about marrying me. He's adamant about it. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have to. Just because we have a child together, we don't have to. We can just co-parent, I've done this before with the first one. This man wants to marry me. And obviously him knowing my mom's values as a Christian religious woman who does not believe in divorce. And obviously if you have a child with somebody you're going to marry. He happened to also work his charm with my mom. And my mom thought, okay, if he wants to marry you, let him marry you, Nolo. Because most men don't even want to marry. And when you've got a man who wants to marry you, what if this is the last marriage proposal you get? You've got a second child with a different man. Do you think you're going to get lucky again? This man wants to marry you. Think, girl, think. And what did I do? I'm pregnant. There's a man who wants to marry me. He's the second man I'm having a baby with. So, I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. Are you going to change though? Are you going to change? And he says, I will change. Because the problems we had, every time I'd bring them up, he was profusely apologetic, remorseful. And he would always say, I'll change, right? And that's the difference I would see between him and, actually, no, my dad was the same. He'd also always, whenever we had family meetings, complaining about his things, he would always say, I'll change. So yeah, I married my dad. And things obviously didn't change, Itu. They didn't change. They did not change. Until I gave birth. And I came back. And I don't know how many times I had kicked him out within the 9 months of our holy matrimony. And every month end, when my mother would come down and she has to be the mediator, he would end up moving in. By the end of that month, he's out again, So when he finally moved out was when I saw the fear and the terror in my older daughter's eyes. She's 9 at the time. She's watching the so-called stepfather terrorizing us night after night, weekend after weekend. We're locking ourselves up in the bedroom to avoid him. But we can hear him making a noise. We can hear him smashing plates. We can hear him smashing cups, threatening to kill us night after night. And something clicked in me and said, Nolo, this is how you grew up. This is how you grew up. Is this really how you want your daughter to grow up as well? Because ever since you met this man from day one, he's been saying he's going to change. Your dad was the same way. So you're going to carry it out for 35 years like your mom did with you. You really want to damage her like that. It's time for you to choose. Do you want to be looked at in society as a woman who is married and respected? Or do you want to be looked at in society as a woman who failed at a marriage, but at least her daughter is not psychologically damaged? So I made a choice. I would rather let this thing go and not put so much hard work in it. Because at the time, we were even going through marriage counseling. He was going for sessions to help him with his addiction. But I couldn't fix him. I couldn't fix him, and he couldn't fix me. And who was suffering? Who was at the expense of all of this? this 9-year-old who's seeing everything and absorbing everything. And so I had to let him go. I had to cut the whole thing. I didn't care whether it was going to humiliate my mom to family members who were there. I didn't care how society was going to look at me. But a few months back, YouTube video, and then I didn't care. My mind was on this young one because I had learned about generational curses. And I had learned about how if you have recognized the generational curse, then you are the one who's able to stop it. And I said, that stops with me. It stops with you. And I cut ties. I cut ties so much that as much as this time around it would be the same thing. Oh, let's have a family meeting, mediation. I went, as soon as he left, I went straight to the police station and I filed a restraining order, meaning that even that mediation meeting can't happen. This person can't come back here. I don't want to do this anymore. At 9 months, was I supposed to wait until 9 years to realize what I'm doing is wrong? How much damage would I have done to my daughter? I know what damage it did to me. At my age, in my late 30s, I'm still working through what I went through in my childhood. I can't. If there's one title I hold in high regard in my life, it's being a parent. I can fail at any other position and title in the world, but I'm not failing at this one. And I'm going to do it right. And if it means I have to let go of that side of me, even though it gives me some sort of respect in society, I will let it go. I'm not damaging my child.
What are the questions that you're asking yourself in the midst of this toxic marriage? And you're like, this man is here. He's beating me up every day. What are some of the conversations that you're having with yourself at this time?
The most common conversation I would have when the storm would quiet down and I find myself sitting in my bathroom in the shower crying because I didn't want my daughter to see me. And that week, she always knows her mom to be a tough cookie. So once I've calmed her down, I would go to the bathroom, switch on the shower water, and I would cry. And as I'm crying, I'm thinking to myself, how did I get here? Oh no, how did you get here? You are such a tough cookie. You were raised this way. You were supposed to guard against these things. These things are not supposed to happen to you. How did you get here? You know, so if anything, I was beating myself up. I was beating myself up for even allowing so many things to happen when I knew very well in the depth of my heart that I didn't want them to happen. And I do know how I got there, by the way. So it's a journey of self-discovery. So, but I think it was important for me to ask, how did you get here? Because I could have chosen to cry and say, whoa, me. Oh, I'm a victim. Oh, I've got an abusive man. Whoa, me. And then I could have easily gone on social media, like some public figures, and expose him for abusing me. But I just felt like, this is not your first rodeo, girl. You've been living this life since childhood, you know? So if anything, why didn't you learn from your childhood? How did you get here? And those questions are exactly what helped me to overcome my self-limitations and work on them, you know? And I know for a fact that I won't be making the same mistakes again, because now I know, where did I take the wrong step? Where did I fall short of God's glory to end up there?
Sure. Do you feel like you have a God eye view where syndrome rather, like where like you feel like you should know things, you should be on par with things all the time, you should protect yourself all the time, you should be on, like, when things fall apart, you know, it's just like, oh no, like this is never going to happen again. When you need protection, you are protecting everybody else except yourself. When you need to just like fall down on like somebody's lap, you are like, I'm going to be that for people.
Oh yeah, you just explained me. And then like, that's just who I am. Yeah, that's who I am. I don't know if it's a type A personality type, but that's exactly who I am. And I am saying like, only now am I learning how to ask for help, but I'm not coping. Only now am I learning to ask for a shoulder to cry on when I need one. Only now am I learning to actually say, no, look, today you're not okay. Hey? Today you're feeling weak. It's okay to stay in bed. You don't have to get out. It's okay. You know, because, and again, I'll take it back to my therapist because I'm very grateful. That's one person who helped me rediscover myself. But also, let me not give all credit to the therapist. Also, going back to God to help me rediscover myself. As I mentioned before in the previous answer for it, I knew where I fell short of my glory to end up where I was. I did not have a relationship with God for the longest of time. I was living my life with my own God complex. And I thought I knew how to lead my own life. I'm going to do it my own way, in my own rules. And I did not have a relationship with God, but I wouldn't say I wasn't Christian. I am, but I'm just Christian by name. You know what I mean? I was at that point in my life, Christian by name. Don't even ask me to come to a prayer meeting. Don't, you know, so I had drifted off. I had backslidden, as Christians would say it, right? So I had lost my touch with God. And one thing about having a relationship with God is having a relationship with God teaches you more about who you are. Because that's your source, that's your maker.
Yeah.
Right? So if you need to understand yourself, that's where you go. And I had detached myself. And so when I was having these therapies, mind you, I was having these therapy sessions in hospital by force, because I can't leave hospital. I'm stuck there. It's my residency for a month. And so this guy had to come see me every day, as annoying as it was, which is I eventually got acquainted to it. And by the time I left that hospital after a month and a half, I had realized how much of myself I had lost. And that's when I started the journey of rediscovering myself. And yes, what you explained, that's exactly who I've been and partially still am. I want to be the hero to everybody. I want to be the shoulder to lean on for everybody. I will drive for miles to come and save you. And the painful thing, as much as we don't admit it, people of that nature, is when you need it and nobody's there for you, it hurts so bad. It hurts. It hurts so bad you find yourself feeling like you wish you could go to your mother's lap and just lie on her lap and cry. Because you're thinking, man, all of those people I was there for, who's here for me today? You know? And that's, I don't know, I think that's just the sad thing about type A personalities. You really want to, you have a God complex. You want to be the hero. You want to be the savior to people all the time. But right now, I'm not ashamed to say I'm a savior to my kids. Any day, I will be the savior to my kids, because I know I needed that. At some point, I'll let them go, and when they leave the nest, I'll set them off. You know? But right now, I'm going to be their hero. You must remember, they don't have dads, right? So they're already missing that dynamic in their childhood. So I already know that I need to overcompensate a little, you know.
And that in itself is still trauma.
You think so?
Because being the hero for your children comes from you not getting it, and now you want to give that to your children over and above, right? So it's like, because I didn't have this, I'm going to give you a lot of it. And it's like, but like the root cause of it is trauma. It's the trauma.
I get you. But who's going to give it to them, Ito? Who? I'm really trying my best to not raise broken children, because the reason we have so many social ills in our country right now is because we are dealing with broken adults that come from broken homes. So already my children have an inadequacy of not having a father figure. And I'm not saying it won't happen, but until God can bless us with that father figure, in the meantime, I have to double up. Don't get me wrong, it's exhausting sometimes. But I have daughters, so it's easy to say to them one day, guys, I get him in today, when I like sorting out, I need to chill, mommy needs a long time. And they understand completely. Well, the older one understands, so the older one take this little one and they would go play outside the whole day. So at least my kids understand me, where I can say, guys, today mommy needs her me time. I cannot deal with you guys and me. And that's how I recharge. But I'm also still learning to not overcompensate when it comes to other people close to me, family members and friends. One thing I'm learning to do is to say no, which is not easy. I promise you, it's not easy. Sometimes I just look at the phone ring and I'm like, because I know I can't say no, I'm not answering the call, you know, because I have to learn to say no, because I end up feeling drained at the end of the day. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What does a marriage like that create in terms of like self-doubt and criticism moment that will eventually lead to your mental health?
The marriage I had, the marriage I grew up in. Look, as much as we hide it very well, but it also affects you. It crushes your confidence and self-esteem. Yeah. It not even crushes, it chips away slowly. It chips away slowly. And I found myself one day at some event, in my early days of starting to act, and people don't find it weird that I would be an actress, but I struggle with self-confidence. It doesn't make sense, right? So I was at an event and, you know, they would all ask us to pick out a paper and read it. And when I read mine, it read, I am enough. I cried. Because I realized I never thought I was enough to anyone.
Sure.
Anyone. And I never looked at it that way. Who utters those words? I don't think I'm enough. Nobody says that. I mean, my confidence is kind of low. Nobody says that. Because it's perceived as weak. But that's because I grew up with situations and circumstances that were just easily chipping away at my confidence. But if there's one thing I'm good at, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I'm good at putting up a facade. I will put up a facade in a social place. Hey, you know, I guess it's the traits I picked up from my dad, right? I can be the life of the party, right? Make you laugh, make people laugh. It's all good. We're all laughing. It's all Johnny. Chonele is a great person. No, she's so funny. Oh, she handled that MCing thing well. She really carried that in. But by the end of that day, I'm exhausted. I want to go home, because when you pretend, it's exhausting, right? But you're pretending because you're hiding something. You're hiding something. It's a facade. So that's one thing I do exceptionally well. Maybe that's how I got into acting. I could hide things even in high school. I was always the jokester, but nobody knew the kind of things I was hiding back home. So it's just the things I'm learning to undo. And the undoing is not an easy process, but I promise you, if you surrender to it, you have a chance to realize that version of yourself that you were destined to be from childhood, you know. Yeah. You just have to be willing to unlearn. You don't know it all. Even in your old age, you can still unlearn some things. Yeah.
And that facade is sort of like makeup, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mask. It's a mask I put on very well. Very well. But then, you know, when Jesus would sit with the multitudes, right, and preach and give sermons and parables, what did he do at the end of each sermon? Jesus always went up to the mountain alone to pray.
Yeah.
And I always like to say that to certain people, no, you can't go home with me because I need to go home and recharge. I've given up, I've put up well, Jesus wasn't putting up a mask, but I've put up a mask for that long because there was a certain mandate I needed to fulfill. Maybe I'm the MC or something, you know, or maybe it's just a family gathering. And they're happy that they have this family friend or family member of theirs who's on TV. So you're going to be joining with everybody, you know, you have to just push things under the rug and go with the flow. But at the end of it all, you're tired. You want to go home and deal with you. So nowadays what I do is I just don't go to sit. I'm sorry. They're probably thinking, oh, that's why she didn't come.
Yeah. It's because of 1, 2, 3, yeah?
No, it's called taking care of oneself.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do that for the longest of time. And that's why today I don't blame my failed relationships to bad luck. I also say, how do you teach a person how to love you if you don't know how to love yourself? I didn't know how to love myself for the longest of time. I didn't know. And I'm only learning love. And self-love is not just boundaries. It's not just hygienic self-care, you know. It's not just learning to take time to spoil Nolo. Self-love is also just remembering what makes Nolo be more at peace. Do that. Do more of that. And not only do more of it, but learn to be a little bit selfish with yourself, Nolo, because you give so much of yourself to people, you know. And I promise you, it has made life for me more enjoyable.
Where? Do you think that you love yourself now?
Yeah. Yeah, even though it's at the expense of people not understanding me. Because you must remember, people know a particular me, right? And I can't only sing to somebody, I have to reintroduce myself to you. Sometimes they don't even understand what the hell you mean by that, right? So instead, what would happen is they just don't understand.
Yeah.
Different. And I would just say, I'm sorry, Joe. I'm a single mom of 2. That's the excuse I use. But
yeah,
in hindsight, I'm actually just doing more of what Nolo needs. What Nolo needs. And I find myself more fulfilled and finding more meaning in life. Because in those spaces where you're giving so much of yourself, you're always putting up a mask, you're always pleasing people, you're always showing up for people and being the hero and so on and so forth. You know, when you are alone and you don't have somebody to take care of you, you end up asking yourself, then what's the use of living? You know, and that's when suicidal thoughts will creep in. And you start thinking, Madam, now on waiting. When did you bring me to earth? And like, to do what? You know, I don't even enjoy my own life. And as much as you have given me a purpose to always bring hope and light to people, but nothing where I you know. So I'm glad that now I was afforded the opportunity to reset, reboot, take time, rethink your life, undo the wiring that has been done in since childhood, and really start looking at life from a different perspective, you know. Anybody else would be extremely pissed at how life has turned out, the way mine has. But I'm so happy it turned out that way because it gave me that pause. It gave me that pause that I needed to figure Nolo out and find myself where I lost myself. And I think today I'm honestly a happier and more content person. Yeah.
What are some of the conversations that you have with yourselves when you're all alone and the kids are not there and there's no cameras and friends and nobody else to please but yourself? What are some of those conversations that you have?
So I have this thing I like to do every morning, right? Or like mid-morning. And it's called checking on me. It's a skill, it's a style that I like. So what I do is I say, okay, Nola, it's time to check on you, girl. How you doing? Okay, how you really doing? How you feeling today? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling a bit sad? Are you excited? Are you elated? Are you euphoric? I would just check on myself with every emotion. And you'd find that sometimes because I went to bed with something worrying me, I woke up with it still worrying me, right? So I'd say, okay, let's analyze that. Why is it worrying you? It's worrying me because I feel like that person is disrespecting me. Okay, so what do you want to do about it, Nola? And literally sit down and have, I would say Nola has a conversation with Pebetsi.
Sure.
Yeah, so I check on self because I've noticed for being somebody that has suffered with dysthymia for a while, it's quite important to always check your state of mind on a regular basis because you can easily be lost and just end up living on autopilot again. So it's a skill that I do literally every day in my own spaces. Okay, so, and I even laugh at myself about certain things, Yeah, so, I do what we call check on self.
In 2017, you went through hardship. And I just want to read something here. 3.5 years ago, she was sleeping on rat-infested floors, not knowing where her next meal was coming from. By day, she would strap her baby to her back and go door to door begging for a job so that you could scrape a few rands together to feed your daughter. But fate was smiling on you. After months of hardship, a fairy tale came. And now the whole of Mzansi knows who you are. Tell us about that time. And then I just want to read here quickly. And it says, there was a time when I would have my daughter's porridge for dinner, breakfast and lunch because I didn't have money to buy food for myself. But I always ensured that my child had food.
Where did you get that? Did I write that? Sure.
And research.
Oh. And the weird thing is, I went through similar things with both my kids. So, when they say generational cycles, they're not just talking current words that are being thrown around in culture. When I met Robbie's dad, I was on radio. My radio career was just kicking off. And, as a prominent figure, he said, no, stay at home. I will take care of you, have a great pregnancy. Because also the environment was toxic. I was always complaining about certain individuals. And he said, no, just stay at home, I'll take care of him. And I mean, I'm young at that time. I'm 27. And my mom still sees me as probably her virgin daughter. And now I have to tell her I'm pregnant. But to my surprise, she wasn't upset because she said, "You're okay. You're an adult now. It's okay." And then I told her who the dad was. But then, a fairy tale, you see, there, I don't want to lie, there I really thought I'm in a fairy tale. That was probably the first time in my life I thought this is what they say love is, because I had an individual who was taking care of me.
Sure.
I didn't need anything. I've never been in that position in my life. I didn't want for anything. I had everything. I lived with him. Car was provided for. Home was provided for. Had an allowance every day. And the sad reality is the hand that provides for you is usually the hand that will control you. The hand that feeds you is usually the hand that will oppress you if you're not doing it yourself. So things turned bad when I started realizing that obviously my life was now controlled, dictated over my movements, and I had no say in his movements and his relations with other females. So then I quickly learned that I'm his baby mama, but he's got girlfriends. And I had no say, because everybody wants to be in my shoes, right? Everybody would like to have a baby with a prominent man that was taking care of them. So I stuck it through. Itu, and at 7 months pregnant, I then discovered, I walked in on him with a woman. So my suspicions were finally validated, vindicated, and that's when I actually saw it live. And I then told myself mentally, there's no way I'm doing this with this man going forward. Again, I saw my dad do this. I'm not allowing it in my life. But then I was told you can't have a child without the dad there. You can't break up with the child, with the father of the child before the child is born. So I thought, I can't do that. To my first kid, I stuck around, but then obviously things never got better. And like I didn't have anybody to confide in. I didn't have anybody's support about this particular problem I have. This person is cheating. So again, because my mom was married to a man who was doing these things to her, it's a norm.
Sure.
So why must you be worried about it a lot? I remember her famous line would say, "Utwe you're gonna jump from the frying pan into the fire. You're not gonna find any better." But no, so my daughter was born 2-3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. One day I just woke up and I told myself, I'm tired of feeling like this every day. I'm tired of feeling useless. I'm tired of feeling like my life is dependent on somebody. I'm tired of feeling like this is it. This is what I've made of my life. Did I really go all the way to America to come and have a short stunt in radio, and then this is it now? I'm just a mother to somebody and I'm living under his shadow. I just couldn't be that, I felt so inadequate. I felt so powerless. I felt so helpless. I felt like my life had no purpose anymore. And then it was that day when I realized I can't do this. And I don't know, I just woke up and I said, I can't do this anymore. So, because every time I tried to leave him, I was always taken back to him. I planned an escape and I ran. I sold everything he ever bought me. Your iPads, your Blackberries at the time. Anything that I could sell that was expensive, I took it and pawned it. Took the money, left the credit cards, left the car, took the money, bought a bus ticket, came to Joburg. Because also the reason I had to run was because every time I said I want to leave this town, my mother would always say, leave, but leave the child alone because the dad can take care of the child. He's got money, he'll take care of it. And I'm like, but she's the only thing that has meaning to me. She's the only thing that has purpose to me right now. I can't leave her. So they didn't want me to live with my child, so I stole her. And I came to Joburg. When I came to Joburg, I linked up with friends that I knew from when I was living in America, foreigners who were living in South Africa now. And they were staying in Yeoville. And I linked up with her and I said, friend, just need to crash here for a while. Just need to crash here for a while. I know myself. I'm a survivor. I survived in a different country. I'll find a job. And so I went from living that kind of life. Do you see the different dynamics, the difference? I went from living that kind of life and I went to rock bottom. And I told myself, I will start afresh if I need to. But that life, or something of that nature. I knew the pain I was going through. I knew that these shoes are hurting me. That's what they couldn't say. But everybody's saying, nice shoes. So I left. And in hindsight, maybe I was young, 27. Maybe I was young, maybe I was not thinking things through. But if anything, I had courage and believed that I can start from scratch and I can make it on my own. And I went to Joburg and living in Yeoville, and you hear rats crawling. And I heard rats can chew on babies' fingers. So I used to literally cover my daughter, you know. In the daytime when she was at work, I put my child on my back and I'll go ask for a job and ask me what job I was asking for. I didn't mind going from being a radio presenter to go be a nanny again. Because I didn't want to go back home and I didn't want to go back to that man. But with the help of a friend, a very special childhood friend, she contacted my mom and she managed to contact me because I had cut myself off. And she contacted me and she connected my mom and I. My mom and I reconciled. My mom also decided to assist me financially to get back on my feet. And that's exactly what happened. Through the reconciliation we had, my mom assisted me. We got a place. She even gave me her car to use in the meantime while I go job hunting. And while I was job hunting, I managed to get back on radio. I worked at Impact Radio in Pretoria, which is a Christian radio station. Yeah. And while I was there, surfing through the internet, one day I hear about auditions for Skim Sam, and I was like, oh my God, I love the characters there from my hometown. I want to go to take pictures with them. In my mind, I'm not going to act. I'm not going for an audition. In my mind, I'm going to take pictures, right? And then I remember I went to the cousin of mine, and when we got there, somebody said, okay, guys, to come and audition, you need to put together a monologue. And I'm like, what's a monologue? I know nothing about it. And then he's like, no, put together a monologue, Gasped. So I quickly Googled what a monologue is. I'm like, oh, okay. And I put together a monologue quick fast. I mean, I work on radio. I know how to quickly put a 3-minute link together, so I put it together. Gasped. And then I was doing it for fun. Like I said, I went there to take pictures with characters. And 2 weeks later, they called me and they said, we've got a character that it wasn't there for audition that day, but we've got a character that we feel like you can act it. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I'm the kind of person, throw me in the deep end, I will swim to the shore. I will never say I can't do anything. I will do it. I'm the kind of person. They say build this pool. Yes, give me that. I'll rather Google how to build a pool. But I'll tell you I can do it. So that's how I rose to where I wanted to be. My personal idea of success. Because my success cannot be dependent on somebody else. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. But yeah, it was really tough. It was really tough. I was eating baby food with her. But hey, I was at my thinnest in my life at that time. I was very sexy. But I managed to, back then I really did not have any other thing to rely on but the belief that God can restore you. God can redeem you, Yeah.
And then in 2021 September, you're right that you believe that the devil is literally after you because of all the traumatic things that you're going through. And you wrote, I have encountered severe near-death abuse from somebody that I thought I would spend forever with. You also opened up about your near-death delivery and explained how you almost lost your life. In fact, you did for 3 minutes, you said, and your baby's life. Also having a near-death experience during my delivery, which was actually not a near-death experience. I died for 3 minutes. Since this year began, actually, my existence on earth has been tried and tested. High health risks, car accident, depression and anxiety, fatally challenging birth experience. So literally, God gave me a second chance at life, and I will never take that for granted again.
And it was just 2 years ago. I don't know what was happening in that time of my life, honestly. But you know, but because I refuse to believe a lawyer. Because if I've never even used Muti, I don't even know where do we go to find it, you know. So what's my also when I fell pregnant, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, but they just said it's normal. You know, in pregnancy it's normal. But mine was never succumbing. It was never going down. They gave me pills after pills. Every time I'd go for my monthly checkup, they would increase my dosage. Guys, what's going on? Like, auntie, you know? I remember the doctor telling my then husband, you must try and help her relax. Food spa, man. Too stressed. This woman is too stressed. But she didn't know what was happening behind the, you know, the scenes. I've been driving since the age of 16. Never had a car accident in my life. I drove in New York on the left-hand side steering wheel. Can you imagine New York with the yellow cabs? Do you understand how busy that is? I've driven shortly in London when we landed in Heathrow, and we were in London for a few minutes, for a few hours, because we were in a connecting flights. I've driven there as well. But now I've driven in Noord, I've driven in Marabastad. Never had a car accident in my life. And that day when we had that accident, it was myself, my then husband, and my daughter. We were coming from the airport to drop off his sister. And it was late at night, Gaboma 9. And really, I really have anxiety about driving at night. As a matter of fact, I have anxiety about driving now because I've been hijacked twice. So I don't drive. Once it's sundown, I don't get behind the car. Not that I lack faith, but kisali jittery. And we were coming back from the airport. Of course, I was driving because husband was intoxicated. And when we stopped by the robots, I saw this Golf parked behind us, speed like. And then because I'm always vigilant when I'm driving at night, hey, came at the robot and check everywhere. Then I pass. I don't really stop at the red light, but I stopped that day because, you know, no holy bees. Jiggy. From the rearview mirror, I see these guys coming out and rushing to us. In my mind, I'm like, I've got a daughter in the back seat. Throw my air, I hit the accelerator, Papa. I hit it. And they decided to chase me. They run back to the car. I'm busy driving, brother. Oh, gone, Kaburok. My daughter lay at the back, Barobit. I'm like, hearing it. So now as I'm hearing it, Kenya go back Deutsche, because we're on this one way. We were on Van der Riebeck Road in Edenvale. So because I know it's a lot of it first. But so there is a delivery scooter coming that I didn't see. Maybe his lights were not on, or maybe he only one light. But also, you know, I'm in panic mode, fight or flight, you know. And there I am turning, and then he bumped into us. And the weird thing about that accident is it was a write-off. Mara ke scooter. Scooter se shapile fender, guys. And then those guys passed obviously after they saw the accident. They just
Of
passed.
course.
And then it the airbags the out, they go right off. So the whole thing didn't make sense, you know. Okay, I understand I was running away. Marajane accident day. Luckily the guy didn't get badly injured. There was no fatalities. He just sprained his leg. But never know my BP now rose, and then my heartbeat was irregular. My daughter was obviously scared, and then we were put in an ambulance and we slept in hospital that night. We had issues because the police on the scene didn't understand why was I the one driving. I'm highly expectant. So they thought I was covering up for my drunk husband. Guys, he was not driving. Like, why don't you believe it was me? But no, ma'am, you don't have to cover up for him. Can I ask my daughter? But no, she's a kid. She can't lie, you know. So anyway, it was so much drama. But and then I was in hospital. And then, you know, another weird thing, and I keep saying they're all weird because when you try to analyze them in layman's terms, they don't make sense. So the day I went to give birth to my daughter, I had no labor pains. I was past due date. I wanted this baby to get out of me now because shame you're past your 9 months. I'm sure you're cooked. You know, I'm sure you could. So I remember I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I want to go to the hospital. Why? I want to beg the nurses, please, Mom, to take this baby out. Let them induce labor or something. That time, you must remember, husband has been out of the house for some months. I'm financially unstable because as an actress, if you're pregnant, you're not working.
Yeah.
And I've never been to a public hospital in my life. So I don't know why I must go now, especially with a high-risk pregnancy. I have high blood pressure, right? So my mom and I had been saving prior to that, but we didn't have enough to book a hospital bed. A hospital bed in private hospital is like 28 rand for the bed. We're not counting medical fees there. So mama said, but we don't have enough one month and I get to go. Now go kidi 18th April, I get to go no fit 19 mom. Mama really let's just go home, mom. Please, we'll beg them. I'll cause a scene. I'll play the mechanic card. I'll beg. Let's go. I drove myself to the hospital. Heki fita itu waiti kis pity. Nurses are like, what? I couldn't go check a pillow. Okay, let's check your vitals. Yay! But look, check the vitals. People are frantic. Call mom, call doctor, mom. And then I'm looking at them like, can somebody tell me what's happening? Is my child okay? But when did you know how your BP is? How are you still standing here? You should be having a stroke or a heart attack right now. How are you alive? What happened? Why are we down there so? I'm like, I'm not hurting. I just want this baby out. So for some reason, no, actually, not for some reason, by the Spirit of the Holy Ghost, I was calm. I wasn't frantic. I didn't feel pain anywhere. But according to them, I'm dying. 3 a.m. I was saying, who phoned a doctor yaga? Dr. Yaga has to leave her house in pajamas. Dr. Yaga on the way, she's calling the anesthesia. These ones that put the anesthesia, those doctors. She's calling the pediatricians. Because emergency cesarean.
Like hobbies.
When emergency cesarean. None of the guys go labor. No, my sister. Emergency cesarean. And then they're still surprised when I put clinics. My doctor is yelling at me that time. No. What do I know about Mrs. Aspano? Why do you do this? Why didn't you come when you knew your BP was high? But I didn't know. I just, you know. And then the guy puts in that epidural. And as soon as they put in the epidural, I couldn't breathe. Yeah. Like every gasp I took, I remember it as if it was yesterday. I remember they laid me down and then they started cutting. You know, you just feel the pressure. You don't really feel the pain. So I'm like, I don't know who to tell. Guys, I can't breathe. We're paying something out. So the nurse who was standing here, I just pulled on the scrubs with everything in me. And he looked at me. I'm like, I can't breathe. And then I remember that's the last thing I said. I was working, apparently never busy in that hospital. We think who let to my mom when how ushwili mama got in the name of Jesus. But some mama go my aunt so hungry. Mama doesn't care it's a hospital, she's prancing all over the world. It's warasa. She's praying. My mom didn't I was a doctor, go back. Go back.
Come to someone
else. Namela. And the funny thing is, while they're busy with me, the pediatrician also decided to take it upon herself to do CPR on a stillborn, which is not recommended in the medical field. When a child is a stillborn, we accept a child as a stillborn because she was born blue. I guess she was under distress. So the doctor said, hey, now when I saw them helping you, I thought, this lady's going to wake up and ask where the baby is, you know. So I just said, where's my child? And I come out and like, I don't okay. Nonchalant again, still very nonchalant. I don't see my face. I don't know what I look like. You know, the doctor, move in the eyes, move in the eyes. Move in the eyes. I start shivering. Okay, I'm saying, what? How boy, they're still frantic. What we're around. Okay, can I hold my child? Can I just see what she looks like? I don't know. That's corny because now, Leanaki ICU case, get it drippy, get it chumbu, get it. I came morning, Neville. I only saw my kid, I'm sure, after 3 days. Mama came morning. I had a tube in every hole in her body that they could suck things out from. And then in Nalina, they had to put things on me. Only when I woke up from that, because obviously I slept, whatever they gave me, I slept. But when I woke up, it was when I was told, you died. No. And I was like, what do you guys mean? But I understood the story only when my mom told me the story. And I remember that night when they told me, it was the following night, I don't remember it, but the following night also, I didn't know I'm still in pain, I've got a catheter on. Girl gets up, I'm like, I gotta go pee. I get up, nonchalant. I get up and boo on the floor. I've never felt the pain like that in my life. My heart felt like it's literally beating out of my body. My body felt like it was vibrating. And I just could not breathe for the life of me. Every breath was hurting. Every inhale was hurting so bad. And when I started feeling that way, I remember saying, what's going on? What's going on? And the nurse called the doctor. And the doctor said, kidney side effects. So I suffered from pre-eclampsia, right? So, you know, it's like the highest BP. Yeah. So my heart collapsed. And when that happened, obviously I stopped breathing. And then I had fits. And then in that fits, I almost bit off half of my tongue and the whole shebang. And no, I didn't, because they didn't explain. The doctor wasn't there when I woke up. So nobody explained the injuries I had. So no, they didn't necessarily I'm going to pee.
Yeah.
Kante, I'm not okay. I fell to the floor. But I had this fear of dying in that moment. I remember asking the nurse who said, let me go call your doctor. Don't leave me. Don't leave me in here alone. Please don't leave me in here alone. I just could not tell her what's happening. So my mom rushed to the hospital. And again, she's rushing while praying. She's calling my aunt, guys, pray. And my mom says that day, she thought, I'm really going for real. Because the second time now, and then she said when she was on her way, she calls my dad. And she's like, Wena, your only girl is about to die. And my dad is like, how? Kantuku kai. Haru spetlela. Haru dirang spetle. Nan had forgotten I was pregnant. The reason I'm telling you why my dad's phone call is because my mom comes to hospital. She stays with me until they stabilize me. And the doctor just said the electric thing has side effects. It will affect. That's like I felt like my heart was beating outside, my body was vibrating. So it's the electrical shocks that were still going through my body.
I see.
Yeah, so But the weird thing, again, you can't explain these things. You got to be spiritual. My grandmother, my father's mother, who I'm named after, Pebetsi, died that very next morning at the a.m.
Sure.
Suddenly. Ke motho e leng gore azanga wa ya sepetlele, azanga ba mtholwala, but chiki the next morning I'm told maina will tlhokofetse. And my grandmother from my mother's side said, well, they were calling your name, but they called the wrong one. Hence why I ended up saying, I feel like the devil was after me that year. Because everything was just a split-second miss, you know? Like, you almost got me, but you missed me, you know? And sometimes I still believe to this day that if the devil is after you, honey, there's something about you.
Yeah.
There's something about you. He ain't got time to chase down people that don't have things to do.
No.
You know, so I was like, okay, there's something about me there. Can you let me know what this thing is? Let's get to business. Because I don't believe you would spare my life to come and live normal. Hence why I like to say, there's no way you can come to a near-death experience and be the same. It's impossible. You know, your life does change in some sort of way. So when people say I've changed today, I'm like, of course I did. What did you expect to happen? You know? And again, after that whole series of unfortunate events, then I had the pause in hospital. I had to wait for my daughter to heal in ICU. I didn't want to go home. My mom was home with my older daughter. I wanted to be in hospital with my daughter, with the youngest one. So I didn't have anything to do. Not okay for deal, but I'm in hospital, one pillar a bed, which I still did not know how I was gonna pay. That's the kind of faith I have. So and then that's when I started getting therapy, and that's when I started realizing, girl, here hits something more. There's been a shift in the spiritual realm, so get it together. Because, like, I wanted to tell you why I feel like nurses impose the psychologist on me. Remember the Nolo who always likes to be the life of the party? Yes. That was me in the ward every day. Making friends with nurses, having lunch with them, making them laugh. And then you get people coming from other wards in this hospital, and then they'll come and ask for pictures. And I'm taking pictures with them, and we're chatting. We're chatting about my career. I see you, no. So these nurses would be like, Mara, my sister, are you aware of what happened to you? Are you getting this thing? You're not getting it. Do you know what happened? You literally are on the main pages of this hospital's billboard because your daughter and you are a miracle story. But you're going about life, you know? So they call the psychologist a meaning.
Like,
against her own will. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that because I got to see somebody, and I had to have that sit down, and that's just how God works. God can orchestrate chaos to bring you to a point where he needs you alone so you can hear his voice, because life is full of so much noises, right? So maybe I was just not hearing him. Maybe in all these occasions, Mundimu has been saying, no, I'm calling you, girl.
Yeah.
And I'm busy doing me. And God just orchestrated. And in every single situation, he preserved my life. I mean, at 7 months or so, my husband threw me down the stairs in our place. Threw me down the stairs. Anything could have happened. I've got high BP. Anything could have happened, but I was okay. So these things happen, and Mara, I'm still standing. The devil keeps punching and I come back up, and keeps punching and I come back up. So it obviously means, you know what? No, take some time out and listen. What is God trying to tell you? What's God trying to tell you? And that's how I find myself here today, you know?
Sure. Have you had conversations with your with him? Like, let me just refer to him as him.
Oh, I like to call him the ex-husband.
Yeah, no, like the ex-husband.
Okay. Or can we say baby daddy number 2?
No, Suga.
No, we don't talk. I strongly believe, I don't know, but I strongly believe he's going through his own healing. Because he's aware of the things he did, and he does want to change. So I just think he's still going through his journey of healing. But since he left when Kawe was still 3 months old, we've never seen him again. Yeah. So we don't even talk. But we're not fighting. That's what I can tell you. We're not fighting. I send him videos of the child so he can see how she's growing. I don't want him to miss out on moments, milestones. So if I can get a hold of him, I'd send to his sisters that will send forward to him. Yeah. But I also just don't want to rush him. You know, I feel like he needs to heal. He also needs to heal because, we both had our own battles. Yeah. We were introduced to broken versions of each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah. And brokenness attracts brokenness.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So as I'm healing, I'm really praying that he heals too. Not even for me, man, for his daughter. I want him to have a relationship with his daughter. Yeah.
So now you're this big star, right? And everybody knows who you are. You're in a hospital and people are like, oh, Mokhadi's in a hospital, you know? And in the public eye, you're Mokhadi. You're vibrant, you're loud, you're exciting, you're
a people's person.
You're a people's person, right? But in the public eye, you can't be Pebet. You can't be Nolo. Because then that's boring. That's like, no, but I have to put on this facade, like you were saying. I have to put on this mask. How does that affect you as a human being? As Pebetsi, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, have I come to a point where I love myself enough to show the world me? And I don't care whether they don't like Pebetsi. But there's a time for Mokhadi and then there's a time for Pebetsi. And you will get to know me because I love me. Have you gotten to that point yet?
Now I have, after enduring a couple of months of work, shadow work. I have now, and I'm glad that you still specify on Pebetsi, even though when I said nobody calls me that. Nobody calls me that. And I'm glad you said that now because yes, there's Mokhadi and yes, there's Nolo, believe it or not. Nolo is still the public figure. Nolo is the radio presenter, you know. But Pebetsi is that young girl growing up in Limpopo in that home. That's Pebetsi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to believe that I've reached a point where I'm very much vocal about who I am now, whether you like it or not. And I know sometimes it makes certain people uncomfortable because as Batwabantu, we come from families where we are supposed to sit on our cover, don't tell on family secrets, hide them. You don't air your dirty laundry. But you see, airing your dirty laundry is going out there to name and shame. But when you go and tell the truth in its entirety without even putting anybody down, it's really just telling the truth. And may we not forget that the truth truly shall set you free. For me, coming in terms with who I am, and when I say coming in terms with who I am I had to learn when the reason why banna baphila ba ilwalweni is because like wadella. And it's not something I have heard from one person. I've heard from many people, even my own brothers. So if you hear the same thing from different people, it's probably how you are. I had to learn that about myself. It's not a nice pill to swallow. But I swallowed it and I thought, okay, change that about you, Nolo. Because because you don't value men, because when you grew up a certain way, learn what you know, even if it's something as small as calling an Uber driver, sir. I understand that. I will do it. I'm intentional about it because I'm trying to learn new ways of living now. I've got 2 individuals that are looking up to me as well. I've also learned, like I said, I've learned about my people-pleasing tendencies. I know where to draw the line now. Okay, no, more you gotta say no. I also know, you know, codependency. I've learned even things as mundane or as you know, people might say it's trivial. You know, even things as small as admitting to a heartbreak. We black women like to put up a facade out of your straw.
Yeah.
It's okay. Tell somebody about it. Don't really give me a few days to cry over it. Don't tell the person who's cry. Because if you don't accept that feeling, you'll push it under the rug. It's going to catch up with you later. Things even as mundane as being thoughtful about what I eat, guys. Do you understand? Well, that's how deep this inner work has gone for me. Be thoughtful about what you eat. I don't want to be an individual that lives on BP meds for the rest of my life. I prayed and said to God, I'm too young for this. I don't want this. You know? And believe it or not, I don't take BP meds today because I watch what I eat, right? I don't take antidepressants anymore because I prayed to God, I am not going to depend on pills to be happy or to be moderate. For me to smile with my kids, I need to take pills. I'm no longer on antidepressants. I'm no longer on anti-anxiety meds. I'm no longer on BP meds. I'm no longer on sleeping meds either. I mean, there was a time when I was taking a cocktail of 10 pills a day to survive because I'm just all over the place, you know? And I remember one day I said, Lord, I don't want to be this broken and this broke anymore. Help me find myself. And slowly but surely, God really did the work on me. God really did the work on me. Hence why the Pebetsi you see in the world right now, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. If you're uncomfortable about it, I'm sorry, but it's my time now.
Yeah.
Unapologetically so. It's my time now.
Yeah.
And the whole one of her go do long. I go shoot. And that's just how I deal with it, you know. And I'm not saying I'm completely there. I'm still learning how to deal with certain relationship dynamics. Yeah.
And I love what you said, because you have been, a lot of people love saying that you love oversharing on social media, and therefore you are cyberbullied, right?
I never got that, by the way.
By a lot of people.
No, I've never been cyberbullied, guys. That's the weird part about things. Like, if I am being cyberbullied, it's behind closed doors. I've never seen one comment on cyberbullying. If anything, it's just a comment that I would just respond to. Like if somebody would say, why are you taking so long to heal? Excuse me, it's my journey. I can say, but you can't dictate how long I should take to heal. And, you know, I don't see that as cyberbullying.
Okay.
But I've never really seen any cyberbullying unless there's talking behind closed doors. Maybe but sorry, now my oversharing is my therapy.
Yeah.
It's helping me.
Yeah.
And right now I'm doing everything to save Nolo. Because she was drowning and nobody was coming for her. So I'm going for it. I'm really not saving Nolo, I'm saving Pebetsi. I'm saving Pebetsi right now.
And I love that you see things the way that you see them, because I was actually saying that I feel like society wants to tell people how to behave. and what to say and how to say it. Like, for example, you are a superstar, so like you can't be in a taxi. Says who? According to whose standards? If I am sharing about my helper, for example, I'm sharing it because it's my platform, it's my social media, and I want to vent. You can't tell me that just because of this, I can't share it. Why not? Because if you can share it on your platform and people join you and say, yo, why can't I? So it's sort of like you're being told how to behave and how to act in society. And that's where that facade then comes in again, where in society you become this person that you're truly not, because when you are yourself, then it's like, oh no, like you cannot behave like that. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, until when are we not going to be living our true selves because of what other people say? And therefore we would rather be a Mukadi, we would rather be a Nolo rather than be a Pebetsi, to say it's either you love me as Pebetsi or you don't love me at all.
And I think what's truly said it is the fact that truth is we all have battles.
Yeah.
We all have demons to face every day.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there who wakes up and says, "Nike in the matter, in alone." And we all have those demons that we face that people don't even know about. Ne? And guess what? On top of that, you also have your ways of dealing with that demon. And those ways we also don't know. Maybe you're self-medicating your way through it. Maybe you're putting up a mask every day like I used to. You know what I mean? But truth of the matter is, if you have found a way to, instead of escaping it, but rather facing it and dealing with the problem, then whichever way you do it, it's fine. Oversharing, getting on social media and talking forever about something and waiting for people to come in and join you and recruiting like-minded people, because sometimes misery loves company. Mara, as long as at the end of the day,
Sure.
And you're not going to hurt others, because hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
Then we're sharp.
Yeah.
Then arapilinga.
Yeah.
Arapilinga is what we've gone through a lot in the past few years. I always say after this, we belong to be in the third testament of the Bible.
Sure.
Can we not perpetuate things that can be fixed? You know?
And I love it for you. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so much. It did take me a while to get here, though.
Nah. Oh, like we need a second sit down. Like I feel like there's still so much to unpack. And I wanted to tell my audience about your book, the title of it, what is the book about, and when can they start expecting it and where?
Okay, so during my time when I was unable to afford therapy anymore, when I was desperate and I felt like I was all over the place, I needed to find a way to heal. And God told me, write, Nolo, write. So in the beginning, I didn't think I was writing a book. I thought I was just writing my feelings. And I thought I was just writing the things that God gave me an aha moment to. Oh, that's why I'm like that, because I went through A, B, and C. But I can unlearn that, you know. So as I'm having these conversations with God, I would write them down in my mind. I just want to remember them. Sure. One day I found myself with a title of a book. And one day God gave me the vision, you're going to write a book like this. And don't get me wrong, it took me a while to write it. The reason being, there's certain topics I really don't know when I talk about them. I'm like, Lord, I don't want people to know that about me. And God is like, for the book to have the impact, it needs to have Nolo. You're going to have to be transparent about this one, because people have been shoving this one under the rug. So, honey, you're going to have to talk about it. I mean, for a shock effect, right? Just so that you really want to get yourself in book. One of those topics that I'm like, Lord, I don't want to talk about this one, is the spiritual effects of abortion. Oh, we don't talk about that. Oh, we don't. And I didn't talk about it either. My mom knows nothing about that. But God is like, you're talking about this one. We had a back and forth for a good 6 months. I'm like, I am not writing that chapter. And God is like, you're writing it. And I finally put the last full stop on that book. I'd say winter of this year. I didn't want to publish it either, by the way. After putting the full stop, I was still like, can't it just be
a lot?
Do I have to do it? And God is like, you used to ask me, why did you preserve my life?
Sure.
I preserved it for this. You will be saving somebody's life. And if there's one thing I've learned is that smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from others' mistakes.
Sure.
So if you can look at my mistakes and learn, dear young child, dear young adult, if you can learn from that, then you're well on your way in life. You've got this manual on this thing called life.
Sure.
Because we're given so many examples. They say those who don't learn from history end up repeating it.
Yeah.
So my book is coming out on my birthday, which is this following month, okay? By the time they see this, it will be this month, correct? So I'm not going to mention when is my birthday. I actually want people to research that.
Yes.
Because I never get celebrated. So this year, I want a celebration for my birthday.
I love that.
But you'll probably also see it on social media as I launch. The name of the book is called A Decade in My Lifetime. The story of the prodigal daughter, a story of redemption. In a nutshell. So from just those 3 sentences, you can probably just figure out in your mind, you know. I know people that, a friend of mine was like, are you going to give a tell-all book because you work in the industry?
Yeah.
No, actually. I'm sorry, but maybe there's a tad bit of a tell-all, but I couldn't do that. Like I said, the book has to have an impact, so it's not a tell-all.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to lie, it's not a tell-all, but they're very important issues that as a society we need to start having conversations about, to start curing the social ills and breaking the vicious cycles.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You've got 10 fingers and you've got 2 hands. Are you reaching your full potential?
Not yet. I still believe there's more to come.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, yes, I am. Daily, I want to reach a certain potential. When I lay my head at night, I want to say, girl, you did good. Yeah, as a servant of God, I want God to also say, I want my Jesus to say, well done, kid. So daily, with the daily tasks I put ahead of myself, I would like to be where I am here too.
Yeah.
But I still believe there's more to come.
Yeah. Oof. All right, we've now come to the last segment of the show.
Is it what I think it is? Is it the mirror?
No, not yet.
Oh. What you give it to me?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask you a few things now. What is your perspective on the spirituality?
My perspective on spirituality for me is your personal relationship with your maker. And I know it may sound vague, but it's because we live in a world where, people believe in God with their own names. And your God is your maker, your source, where all resources come from. And I specify on personal relationships because may we realize and shift away from the mindset that you need to be in a temple to connect with your maker. You need to go through a high priest to connect with your maker. You need to go in Dumbeni to connect with your maker. You can do it in the comfort of your own home. So spirituality is your personal relationship with your maker, and that is how you learn who you are. You truly are at the core.
Yeah. What is your perspective on freedom?
I love that one. It makes me feel good. Freedom is really just living your true self. It's so freeing to have a sense of self-awareness. It brings this freedom. You walk out knowing yeah.
Oof. What is your perspective on power?
Right now, my standpoint with power is really just financial independence. Yeah.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
For me, power correlates with finances, but something that you've earned yourself.
What is your perspective on identity?
Oof. So, when it was all stripped away from me, I found myself not knowing my worth. I was no longer on TV. I'm not a public figure. I don't have a car. I'm not famous. I don't have money. I'm walking to the shops, and I found myself thinking, "Excellent, useless." And God said, "Come back, girl. And who are you when it's all stripped away?
Oh,
If the titles are gone, if the achievements are gone, if the family name is gone, because maybe some people, their identities is tied to their father's legacy, right? When the family name is gone, when your degrees are gone, when your social status and public figure status is gone, ask yourself, who are you? Even if your kids are no longer yours, because you tie your identity so much to your kids. When your kids are no longer on this earth, who are you? And with the day I got it, I was like, that's an aha moment. And this is my perspective on identity. I am first a spirit before I'm anything else.
Yeah.
I'm a spirit experiencing life in human form.
Yeah.
And my spirit comes directly from my maker.
Yeah.
So who I am in my identity is who I am at my core first.
Yeah.
Before who I am in the physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. I love that. What is your perspective on love?
I hear crickets. If you don't want to lie, I'm not going to lie to your audience. I don't know right now. Hence why I'm trying my level best to stay away from a relationship. But if anything, let me be honest, I think maybe it's because I'm tying love to a counterpart or your spouse, or a companion. But right now for me, love is, I'm really loving how I'm learning how to love Nolo, because I definitely didn't know how to do that before.
Yeah.
And I'm loving myself and I'm enjoying it. Because I know for a fact that I will definitely know how to teach somebody how to love me next time God affords me the chance. But even if I don't get a chance, I'm quite content. Yeah, I'm really content with where I am.
Oof. Now we have come to the mirror. Please take the mirror for me. When I started seeing my beauty, I had to stop looking at myself. And I had to start seeing me. What do you see when you look into that mirror, Pebetsi?
I see a once was broken young girl who is slowly being rebuilt piece by piece. And she's finding herself where she has lost herself. And that's what I see.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I be honest? Yes, I felt like I was in therapy. I really do. Like, you're fresh, man. You're gonna leave to go. So, you know, I really do feel like I was in therapy. Thank you. It is so much. Yeah. I think it just, and I don't know what it is because I know everybody doesn't have it, but you just know how to make people open up to you.
Sure.
You know that about yourself.
I think you know what it is. I think it's pain recognizing pain.
Okay.
Because it's easier to talk to somebody who can relate. And because my pain is both physical and internal, you can immediately know that when you speak about your pain, that the person will get it.
So when I get where the interviews is alone and listen to me, it's like a charge. We say interview me around charge and get therapy session.
We
And the therapy session. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really do. And I'm so glad I came. It was challenging to get here, but I always believe when it's challenging to do something, you make sure you get there.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. Thank you so much for coming. And a candle tried to burn me. It also tried to ruin me. But that very same candle lives within me. And that candle is shining bright. So, Pebetsi, allow your candle to shine bright and keep shining as long.
I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And this episode was brought to you by Same View Productions with their state-of-the-art equipment, as well as phenomenal and extraordinary post-production by Vela Creatives, powered by IS Wines. And from me, this is Sekhu-Pedi. Keep your perspective alive.